And she said it. She said it. She felt so she was free. She felt free of suffering when she said that. She was totally convinced. And yet I know that. I'll go to Canadian Tire and I'll feel so good getting that thing that I really need, that tool. And I'll come out and I'll take it home, and 2 months later the tool might still be sitting there. And then I feel guilty for not using it, or but just for a moment maybe. Why do we feel free of suffering when we actually satisfy all our urges, all the cravings that are going on all the time? And I think for a moment there we do let go. We hand over our money. There's the anticipation of getting something that we really need, and it's new and it's shiny. And of course it's impermanent. We're certainly going to suffer when it breaks down, and we get upset. But I think for a moment we just let go. And that might be why sex is so good, for instance. You know, you just let go, and for a little while. The ego, the beliefs, the attitudes, and the need to protect, you just let go. The need to secure yourself in the world, to verify your own existence, be somebody, and for a moment you just don't.
I realized that through all the rest of my treatment for my issues, and then to reach Buddhism, I had really studied myself. I really had gone deeply, and I had felt my feelings deeply, my hurts, and I had felt those hurts so strongly that I was able to let them go. And in letting those hurts go, I was then able to see that the way I was with my children and my family, especially my children and my family, because it's always the people that we live with that we hurt the most, were all to do with me. It was not to do with them.
So ultimately in the teaching, which I have always found interesting, is the root negative intentions, or one may refer to it as the three poisons, are greed, hatred, and delusion. So that's wanting, moving away from, not wanting. And delusion is not understanding, not seeing clearly. And that's where the self is sort of caught in there. And so the letting go is letting go of that. So letting go of that in this moment, so how it's manifesting in this moment. And then as you let go, you're present. There's not greed, there's not hatred, there's not delusion.
I guess the usual, just dissatisfaction. Looking around at society and seeing that, and myself, trying to put together a nice together self. and every time I picked up a bit of Buddhist literature of any sort, I said, oh, it's about investigation and awareness and kindness and basically all the great good stuff, without throwing out masses of beliefs and things like that.
I have read much in Buddhist teachings on mindfulness. I seem to always be creating a story of the future in my mind, a story that rarely actually unfolds as such once that future has arrived. Does mindfulness imply a more focused, less story-type creation of our lives? How might this help us in our daily life?
For me, mindfulness is about being present and being aware. Sometimes we get, and I know that I am very much like this, you get so busy and so caught up in what we're doing every day, like you're running here, you're multitasking. You're doing 3 things at the same time, you're all over the place, and before you know it, you don't have a really good aspect of even what you've done all day. You know, you've spent the whole day running around, but you actually haven't been present in any of it, you know? So being mindful is about being present right where you're at and giving it your full attention. And be it a positive or negative experience doesn't matter so much, but that you're actually there and what you're doing. So if you're weeding the garden, you're just weeding the garden. You know, you're not having an argument in your head with somebody who wasn't there. You know what I mean? So it's just being in the garden and tending to what you're doing presently. Those kinds of things. Because as you train your mind to do that and your body to do that and focus, the focus is incredible. It's an incredible benefit of that you can actually do a job and get it done and do it well.
And so how does that help people? Because you can't really have understanding. You can't really be acting from a place of connection and compassion if you're not present. So usually we spend a lot of our life, a lot of our daily life, either sort of caught in past or trying to control future, preoccupied with future. So one of the ways is, I often look at it as being present, being mindful is, in one sense, we're transforming what's come before. And we're also laying the foundation for the future. So one of the ways of taking care of the future is taking care of now. And I often think of when we're in the present moment, anything's possible. And a lot of our agitation, our discomfort, our worry, our suffering is in that state of being caught in our stories of the past or future. And so when we're present, when we're mindful, we've let go of that and we're present. Because the self only exists in time. So the self only exists in past, future. So in that thing of being present, we're also letting go of self.
Being free from all sense desires.
What I did do in Thailand is up near Mae Hong Son, which is in the northern part of Thailand, there was a really small little forest temple up there that had a really, really interesting abbot. He was absolutely fabulous. And one of my girlfriends lived up in that area and worked up in that area, and she used to stop by there all the time, just stop by. And finally we were like, you know what, let's go up and spend a weekend. So we just went and spent the weekend, and it was so lovely.
Meditation seems to be an important tool for Buddhists. I have been trying, not very successfully so far, to meditate at least a little every day. What is it that meditation offers? Does it help to create a better focus, more mindfulness?
Trying to describe something that, in a sense, is you can point towards it, but as soon as you start to describe it, you're doing what we do all the time. You're penning it in, you're giving it a form, and it's about formlessness. You're giving it flavors and colors and describing it, boxing it in and changing it. It changes. It's not what it is. So generally a sense of clarity, well-being, and just a freeing up of that tendency. We protect ourselves all the time. So you take off the protection, the protective clothing.
Well, meditation is kind of like time out from the world. For me, it's therapeutic. It allows, it's my own time, where it's just me and me, and looking into my mind, and some of the stuff that comes out is not very nice, but I guess that there is a certain sort of like tapping into your own wisdom. kind of, yeah, just listening to yourself.
By sitting and being focused and being really still, you start to examine your own thoughts, your own actions, the way you interact with people, the way your behavior is, the positive side, the negative side.
The space was wonderful because you could do walking meditation. You could go do meditation in the forest. You could find a place to sit, like not indoors. And so when I was in Thailand, I had the opportunity to do that a couple of times, actually, which was really, really fantastic. And also it builds that rapport with the space, because meditation is also, to a certain extent, you want to feel safe in it. Like, because your challenges then are your internal challenges, that stuff that constantly goes through your mind all the time, right? So sometimes it's easier to be able to concentrate on that, or to get into a more, I don't want to even say peaceful state, but to be able to go through that process of meditation in a place that you feel safe and secure. You know, that's why in a lot of meditation practices, you sit on a cushion. You've gotten rid of a lot of the outside distractions, because it just, for the beginner, it just makes it easier, which is really, really helpful. You know, so, and this was a lovely place when I was in Thailand, a lovely place to be able to do that. It felt very safe. You know, built that rapport and that comfort level there, so that was very helpful.
Area. For me, what I am practicing right now is very much to look at the mind itself, to look at my mind. Mind is, again, a huge vast. You know, mind is not just thinking, it is not just brain, but mind is every experience, is everything that knows. We tend to, you know, when anger comes up, when there is impatience, we tend to think, okay, I am angry, I am impatient. When I look at my mind, I see that these are just little movements of the mind. There's nothing really there, you know. I don't need to identify with it. I have control over it. So when I see, like, okay, it's just a little movement, and I can see it as just a little wave in the ocean, then I can watch it for what it is, just a movement, but I'm not involved anymore. So I can keep balance. I can keep a sort of safe, content space.
And then instinctually, once you've reached that state of calmness, then you look at your own mind, and you just enjoy the experience of just being there, and well, just looking at your thoughts, really. It's not so much suppressing your own thoughts, but the thoughts itself sort of come and go, and then you kind of watch your thoughts as they start to arise, as they stabilize, and when they fade away. And that process itself is quite insightful, in the sense that you begin to detach yourself from your thoughts and your feelings, because instinctually we kind of tend to think, well, you know, when I'm angry or whenever a bad thought comes, you know, you kind of feel, wow, you know, am I capable of a thought like that? You know, it's just, you know, really awful, and you just really feel really bad about it. So, I mean, how could I possibly think something like that? And after a while, you sort of don't label things so much. I mean, thoughts are thoughts, and then they come and they go.
I also realized that whatever I experience, whatever insights I get in the meditation, it is very important to use these things in daily life, because daily life, maybe for a few beings in this world, they meditate for the rest of their lives, but for many of us, daily life is all about being in the world. So if the practice would only be sitting on your cushion and having control of the mind there, and as soon as you leave the cushion you fall back in your own patterns, then it's just another time pass, you know, it's just another enjoyment, and that's it. But the real big practice is being out there. It's being out there with people that push your buttons, being out there with people that annoy you, that you think like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna get being annoyed here. And then is the practice. Then you have to stop and say, okay, I have a choice here. Now I can act upon these emotions, these feelings of I am irritated, I'm agitated, I want to snap, I want to be unfriendly, I'm gonna be unfriendly. These are the moments that the real practice is there. Then you're gonna be just stepping back and say to yourself, okay, now I have a choice. I can be angry and annoyed, then I'm gonna make myself miserable and the other one too. I also can just practice some patience. I'm just gonna sit and breathe and okay, be mindful. Okay, there is agitation, but I do have a choice.
The mere process of identifying the thought and actually seeing it, that in itself weakens the momentum of the thought and makes it less likely to propel on to the next story. Because oftentimes we kind of, well, I guess it's a habitual thing. You know, one thought leads to another, and after a while, you have a pretty good story going on in your head. I mean, it's like, you know, it's just quite elaborate.
I was reading some books about Buddhism when I was still living in the Netherlands. That was before 2000. And then it was just reading about it. Then I left the Netherlands. In the beginning I started traveling. And it was during my travels that I came across places where I could do meditation. So I started to do a few meditation retreats. And after that, I came across these places where they gave some 10-day introduction courses into Tibetan Buddhism. And then it started to become more and more a living thing for me. Then it became more practical. So it was like a very organic process.
The overriding attraction for me to Buddhism is the practice, or shall we say commitment, to compassion and kindness. How do we get there?
You can be pretty hard on yourself, and I've heard that so many times from people who have started with meditation. It is so difficult. Well, yes, it is difficult. Our habits of our mind are immensely difficult to break, or even to recognize, or even to see them for a minute that it is a habit of your mind, right? So it's really important to get compassion is not only for other people, but for yourself, to recognize the state we are in. And to recognize that if I'm in this state, there are many people out there too that are in this state. And I have come from a family that has been, and a community that's been fairly supportive, right? I haven't had many troubles that other people have potentially gone through. I've had the opportunity for a fantastic education. There's always been food on our table. You know, all of those kinds. So I've lived in a very privileged life. Where to a certain extent have been encouraged to go out and examine things and find stuff out, right? So I look at that, and then I look at, you know, potentially what the potentials are of other people. Have they had the same encouragement? Yes, they may have, or they may not have. So it gives me space there to understand other people, and to build a right understanding of people and where they're at, and to have compassion for their situations. And I may understand their situations, or I may not, but it's just that recognition that I have really appreciated that kind of space when people give me that kind of space. And I appreciated when I can give myself that kind of space sometimes, that, yeah, I haven't figured it all out and I'm working on it, but believe me, I'm going to screw up. You know, every once in a while, that's just the way it is. But that compassion gives you the space, and it gives you the support for yourself and to give to other people, to work with where they're at so that they can be moving forward. I don't really like to use the word forward, but to be moving where they need to be going with it.
Sometimes you have to act as well, and act from that place, that the more spacious, letting go place. I don't know how to put it, but you just do what needs to be done. You can see it more clearly often, and if you make a mistake, you know you make a mistake, okay, because that's part of learning. You know, I certainly know it with this, the pottery. It's whether you're a neophyte or starting out in a new direction, you're pushing limits. and you fall down. Things fall down. So, but if you didn't do that, you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know what's the thing to do to keep standing up, or keep the pot standing up. So you explore and you question, and always remember the compassion there, and being in the body, and knowing how your body is doing with the situations, with living, and remember the compassion for yourself, for the situation, and then acting, when you act, with that spaciousness, that and kindness. What's it that Dalai Lama said? That's his religion, is kindness. So, which you can take once you start holding up that, say, light of kindness or whatever to everything in life. It can be pretty all-encompassing. And when you're acting out of that place, then you have to be honest. They have to, it works. I don't know, it just works.
As His Holiness the Dalai Lama always says, like, when you talk about world peace, or just peace, peace is not some kind of concept out there. Where does it start? It starts in every individual's own being. Peace is not something like, okay, now we're going to work for peace or whatever. It starts in every human being. So when you realize the potential of a lot of positive qualities inside yourself, then if you develop that in yourself, then naturally